is sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolf alongside Nick Wright, Kevin Wiles. We got Brian Westbrook with us this morning. It is Monday. We have a fun, jam-packed show, starting with Cam Newton, who refuses to be a backup. We're talking Michael Jordan and what we learned from 2 episodes of the documentary last night, and the Cowboys finally sign a quarterback. Dalton, not Dak. That's where we start this morning today. Dallas making news over the weekend, gentlemen, signing 32-year-old free agent quarterback Andy Dalton. It is a 1-year deal worth up to $7 million, $3 million in that guaranteed. Now, this was reportedly not a leverage move, but instead a way to add depth to the position. What's the word for, oh, okay, sure it is, because I'd use that word. Nick, start with you. What does this signing mean for Dak Prescott?
Yeah, I saw the same reports that, the Cowboys want to make this very clear. This has nothing to do with Dak Prescott. It's just adding depth to the position. Nonsense. Dak has never missed a game due to injury in his football life. You don't spend $3 million to get a backup quarterback when you already have a $2 million backup quarterback in Cooper Rush there to add depth to the position, unless it is exactly what a lot of us immediately thought it was, which is a negotiating investment. Think about it like this. Right now, when the Cowboys and Dak come to the table, the card that Dak holds in his pocket that goes unspoken about is this catastrophic injury insurance policy he has taken out on himself. For an investment I believe to be around $1 million, he has a $100 million windfall coming his way if, God forbid, something awful happened to him on the field, which allows him to play a bit of hardball. So the Cowboys counter Dak's 7-figure investment with a 7-figure investment of their own named Andy Dalton, saying, okay, we're also going to come to the negotiating table with an insurance policy. He's a former Pro Bowl quarterback who actually, his first 4 years in the league, amazingly won more games than you did, Dak, in your first 4 years in the league. And he's just there. He's just there in the background, and you just know he's there. And if you still want to turn down $110, $112, $114 million guaranteed, then go right ahead. Pay no attention to the former starting quarterback who now all of a sudden is on our roster, by the way, through no minor expense. Wild's $3 million guaranteed doesn't sound like a lot, but when you consider the Cowboys' entire quarterback room last year cost $2.8 million, and now you're spending $3 million on a third quarterback. The cap dollars eventually do add up. So, Wilds, I look at this as a negotiating investment by the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I think you're right, Nick. I'm looking at it as nightmare insurance. Like, the nightmare is the 2015 season. The Cowboys start the season 2-0. Romo gets hurt. They go 2-12 the rest of the way. Romo comes back, wins a game against the Dolphins. He goes 3-1. Castle, former Patriot great, he gets 1 win because he was on the Patriots. He goes 1-6.
Patriot great.
Brandon Weeden goes 0-3, and Kellen Moore goes 0-2. Now, Dak comes in the next year, like you said. The guy's never missed a game. All of a sudden, most consecutive starts, active quarterbacks. It's Rivers, Wilson, Dak, the great Tom Brady, and Derek Carr, and Dak's only 26. So I don't think they want Andy Dalton to take a snap this year, and he probably won't. But just in case he does, the Cowboys are making sure that next year isn't a repeat of the 2015 nightmare season.
Brian, do you look at this from a different perspective? You played the game. Do you think this was a leverage move by the Cowboys?
You know, I do look at it at a bit of a different perspective. And to me, there's no better insurance policy for teams that are trying to win right now than a veteran quarterback, a guy that can go in, doesn't need a bunch of reps, and can play right away and help your team win right now. We had back in the day, even though Donovan McNabb was healthy and playing well, we brought in Jeff Garcia because Andy knew him. He knew that he didn't need a bunch of reps and that when he had an opportunity, he was going to step in, be able to lead the football team. And I think, to me, this is the same play for the Dallas Cowboys. Just in case Dak says, you know what, I don't want to play for $33 million. Now they have an opportunity to bring in a guy that can help them win right now because their team is built to win right now. But here's the thing. If you're Dak Prescott, Andy Dalton, in my mind, doesn't mean very much because the only reason Andy Dalton steps on that field is, one, if I get injured or I decide I don't want to accept $33 million of Jerry Jones money and go out there and play football. So to me, if I'm Dak Prescott coming off my career best season, this move doesn't mean very much unless I'm saying I don't want to play, because Andy Dalton will be on the bench until Dak, especially if he signs his contract, until Dak doesn't want to play any longer. So to me, it doesn't really move the needle if I'm Dak. But it also shows me this, that in sports, and it's a reminder, in sports, the biggest fear is injury. I signed a contract a little bit earlier and probably a little less money because I wanted to take the factor of injury out of the equation. The same type of thing happened to Scottie Pippen in the Last Dance documentary. He signed a 7-year, $18 million contract because he didn't want to have to worry about the injury. He wanted to take care of his family. This is the difference between Dak. Dak went out there last year and played through that opportunity, played through that risk, and said, I'm just going to go out there and I'm either going to be franchised or I'm going to be a free agent. And once you play through that risk, there's no changing that mindset. There's no changing my thought that I'm willing to play through anything, whether they bring in someone else, whether they stall out on my contract. I was willing to play through the hardest thing in sports, and that was the fear of injury. Dak played through that. So any deal after that, especially with Andy Dalton or any other quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, if they would have brought him in, Cam Newton, if they would have brought him in, that wouldn't have changed my philosophy because I'm coming off the best year of football that I've played in the NFL, and I've already played through that fear of the injury.
All right, so Brian doesn't think this affects Dak Prescott. Nick, what do you think? How should Dak Prescott feel?
Well, listen, I don't know Dak, but if I were advising him, I would have to have a very honest conversation with him that this is not about 2020. Either they get Dak signed, or if they don't, he's going to play for the franchise tag of a shade over $31 million. This is about a negotiating tool if we are talking about Dak's contract 10 months from now. Because what the Cowboys are putting themselves in position to be able to say is, we have a veteran quarterback, Andy Dalton, who's 32 years old, who Mike McCarthy will get a year to see at practice, who will get to learn the system, where Dak will not be able to hold over their head. Well, what are you going to do without me? Their answer could be, well, it's funny you say that. We spent $3 million last year on that exact concern. And so I agree. This year, the only way Dalton plays is if something catastrophic happens to Dak Prescott. And as I mentioned, the guy's never been hurt. But Wilds, you showed that list of quarterbacks with the longest consecutive starts. What's notable is the guys ahead of Dak, nobody knows who the hell their backups are. Phillip Rivers, some dude named Easton Stick. I'm sure if he was the Patriots backup last year, you'd be telling us he's going to be a star. He was actually taken right after Jared Stidham, but he can't play. Russell Wilson's backup, I looked it up this morning. I didn't know who it was. It's an undrafted guy I'd never heard of. Teams that have notoriously healthy quarterbacks don't invest $5 million, which Cooper Rush plus Dalton equals $5 million in the backup quarterback position. It is about a minor shot across the bow, Kevin, to Dak to let him know, okay, but if you play hardball continuously, eventually we do have an alternative. At least, Wilds, that's certainly how I'm reading it.
That's interesting, Nick. I actually, see if you buy this. Is there a chance that this is actually really good for Dak? I don't think Dak is learning anything from Cooper Rush. No offense to Cooper Rush, but he's more seasoned and he knows more than Cooper Rush. You bring in Andy Dalton and Dak can actually learn. So this might be a net positive for Dak. Brian, do you buy that? Did Jeff Garcia make Donovan better?
I think there were some situations that he had been in because he was in the league a little bit longer than Donovan. He was able to help him out with. And I think when you come to the sideline and you have a guy that has been a starter in the league and sees things different than a backup that really hasn't played very much, it certainly is an asset. But, I still think that whether Cooper Rush or Andy Dalton is going to be the backup or going to be the guy that's going to come in if Dak doesn't play, it wouldn't change very much of how Dak plays. I still think he goes out there and has a really good year coming off his best season in the NFL last season.
Jenna, there's a name for people who aren't supposed to play, who are supposed to make your quarterback better. They're called coaches. They didn't sign a coach. They signed a quarterback. It's not about just making Dak better. It's about a long-term planning for the Cowboys.
All right, Andy Dalton, now a member of the Dallas Cowboys, while Dak Prescott remains unsigned. More to this story, I'm sure. But coming up, Kevin Wildes has 60 seconds to break down The Last Dance. That's all we're giving him. Next on First Things First.